part of the UFO field.
Right, but my contention is that all of UFO research is slowly swinging over to abduction research.
Yeah, finally.
That is, we're in the first beginning stages of it, and that probably will happen eventually.
Yeah.
Because there's only so far that you can go with the studying the outside shells of objects.
Yeah, and they've done that.
And they've done that, right?
20 years ago, they did.
We know everything there is to know about the outside shells of objects, believe me. Everything there is to know that can be known, we know.
Mm.
And now, however, it's the inside that's important.
Yeah, that's right. This is probably going to open up to become the most primary source of valuable information gotten from the aliens.
Well, we don't get much information from the aliens per se, but the information we get is exactly the kind that you have given us, Colette, which is, pardon me, I'm going to do that again.
That's okay.
Which is, I have not been able to shake this, and I just spend the first hour every morning hacking and coughing. But the information is by inference, basically. You describe what's happening, and then we try to infer what it all means. And right now we are in the beginning. There's a guy named Thomas Kuhn, and he wrote a book called Structure of Scientific Revolutions, which is a little tiny, thin little book. In college they read it for a million different classes, and I have them read it for my UFO class, and they read it for sociology and history of science and all sorts of other classes. And what he talks about is how science advances. Does science advance according to a measured step? More information you get changes our worldview, the outlook that we have on the world, etc., etc., just a steady, slow accumulation of knowledge. And he says, no, that's not how it works. The problem here, he says, is that all science is involved with something that he calls a paradigm. And a paradigm basically is a sort of, if you look at it in descriptive terms, it's like a box. And within that box, all science exists. And within the box you formulate questions, and the questions might be, why do waves exist in the ocean? How come they break in a certain way? Why do they do that? And then the answer can be answered within that, well, they break because of the moon, the gravitation, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. And it's all within that box. And this is the way science is. Now, the problem with this box is that there's always some little details or aspects, or anomalies as he calls them, that don't fit in the box. And we can't answer the questions about these anomalies, like let's just say UFOs, which seem to be an anomaly, within the paradigm. There's nothing in the paradigm that can tell us what's happening. If an object simply appears in front of somebody and then disappears, that's out of our paradigm. It's out of the science paradigm of science. So what happens is, science, you wait and wait and wait and wait until science begins to deal with this, and then you have to wait until every aspect of science proves to be wrong. They can't deal with it. When that happens, suddenly the paradigm goes into crisis. It cannot deal with the anomaly. In order to deal with the anomaly, the paradigm has to be shattered. And then a new paradigm built, which will deal with the anomaly, which is what happened with Einstein's overthrowing of the Newtonian universe. He formulated a new paradigm. Now, not everything changed, but some things changed, and nothing's changed, so there was a new paradigm. So, when the new paradigm is formed, everything is in a state of chaos. You don't know what's important anymore, you don't know what questions to ask, you don't know any of that stuff. And one of the first things that happens is you get into a fact-gathering stage. But you don't know what's important, so every fact assumes the same weight of importance as any other fact.
Well, that's where we are right now, right?
That is where we are right now. We're in the fact-gathering stage. We are just beginning now to decide what's important and what's not important. Just a few years ago, prior to Bud Hopkins beginning research, we could not tell what was happening in abduction cases. We knew that people were having examinations, and then we didn't know what was going on. I mean, we knew that they were seeing all sorts of strange things, and that they were having doom and gloom predictions of the end of the earth and this and that. We couldn't figure out. It was just, we could not select out what was going on. Just had no idea. Now we're in the stage where we're beginning to, things are shaking down. They're settling down. And now we're beginning to see exactly what's happening. And we're building, if I may use it in terms of UFO research, which doesn't apply, but for the purposes of argument, we're building a new paradigm now in UFO research, which focuses on abductions, which tells us what the aliens are doing, which gives us new questions to ask, which allows us to answer questions, and which provides us with what we think is correct information. Now, we're still in more questions than answers by far stage, and we have a million questions, no answers.
No answers?
No. For instance, about the aliens themselves.
Yep.
Even though Alice reported that conversation she had last time, basically we don't have enough information
No,
to know.
that's true. That's the only time I know it.
Right, yeah.
Found out
If 100 people say the same thing, then we're onto something, you know.
where they're from, yeah.
We don't know where they're from. We don't know how they get here. We don't know what's happening to the babies. We don't know what the ultimate purposes that they have in mind are. We really don't have any evidence that there's anything wrong with their bodies.
No, we don't have their bodies, really.
We don't have, now here is
Air
the
Force
odd
does.
part, and we would assume that they do, but we don't have any evidence of a culture. We cannot tell anything about the society in which they have come from the abduction phenomenon. And we would assume that there is a society and a culture, but we don't know. We know zilch about it, zero. We have no knowledge of it. The only thing that we know is their behavior and their interactions during the abduction event. And that is like trying to describe what humanity in all its history and complexity is like by viewing one room in a hospital for an hour. It's tough to do, you know. So we would assume that they have had, you see, you have to assume certain things. Number one, they have technology. That, of course, we see. In order to have technology, they have to have math, they have to have science. They can't not have that. In order to have the technology, they have to have a division of labor, it seems, or at least something approaching that, and we do see that. They have to have interaction of a cooperative sort.
And they do have that.
Yes, and they do have that. They seem to have a goal, they have a purpose, they have a plan, they have a method, and they go out and they do it.
Right.
So there are certain aspects of the society that we can see on board the object which mirror ours to a large extent, which are similar to ours. But there are big differences as well. There are, in fact, differences. In other words, there are things we don't see that are unusual. We don't see an easygoing chit-chat between them that we do with humans. We don't see, for instance, a sense of aesthetics.
Right.
And that sort of, there's a lot of things we don't see. That
Like
are
when,
odd.
I mean, like I don't see colors at all.
Right.
You know, like when I say black and white or just gray tones, it's like either white, gray, or black. It's just.
Yeah, now other people report white, gray, and black, which is by far the most prevalent colors or non-colors. But sometimes they'll see a tan or beige, they'll describe as well. And sometimes in various machine exams, they'll see other colors too. But it's not the general decor. You know, if I
They're
may
not
use
into
that
art
word.
and antiques.
Not exactly.
Not on their spaceships, anyway.
So,
Which means that they get here real quick, and they don't need anything to look at on the walls, probably, if they come from a space.
well, they may not have the
They come
type of
from-
brain that functions, that has aesthetic abilities or sensibilities. They may not simply be part of them.
Maybe they're just all left brains.
It could be all just scientific
It's
workers.
possible. It certainly is possible.
mean,
I do
on
know
the
that
ship, except for the captain, maybe.
when we
One
take a look,
intelligence.
when we take a look very carefully at what's underneath their skin, that is to say, when we look at their morphology, we cannot look at the physiology because we really don't know what's going on there. But when we look at what they look like, you notice I did not really ask you about them. I don't like to do it on the first time, but we find very different things happening in there than what, when we use humans as a model, we see a real different situation. Now, we are assuming that there is a, quote, brain, but we really can't assume that. We do know that there is some sort of operating mechanism within them that is probably behind their eyes, because this makes sense biologically, that allows them to work, that gives them signals just like us. But in terms of how the signals are received to the body, we don't have any evidence of nerves. We don't have any evidence of anything, really. We don't have, we're looking at...
We got zip.
We got zip. We have a gross morphology. We have the idea that they look sort of human-like. That is to say, there's 2 arms, 2 legs, a body, and a head. But after that, all bets are off.
But they can breathe outside the ship in some cases.
We don't have any evidence whatsoever that they breathe. In fact, we have lots of evidence that they don't breathe. And so air or atmosphere doesn't seem to matter much to them. Which is why there is air on board the object, because it doesn't matter to them, it does matter to the people who they're dealing with, and obviously they have to, and they know that, of course. And but we don't have any evidence whatsoever that they are air-breathing entities. In fact, I can make a fairly overwhelming case that they don't breathe air, which I do in my book.
Yeah.
It's one of the questions I ask: do they breathe? And the answer is no. They don't breathe.
Oh, by the way, I wanted you to tell you.
Yes, sir.
It would be nice if you would mention my name, that I brought you a few people, introduce you to a few people from my group.
That's your name where?
In the book. If you would.
Oh,
I'm just
well,
giving you permission.
Okay, I'll take your permission. The only people I'm mentioning by actual name are a few UFO researchers who were abduction researchers in the 50s and 60s, and then Bud Hopkins, and after that I'm not really... Everybody's name is being changed.
So I've been doing
all the way
research
through
for a
it.
long time, too.
This is true,
I've been trained.
but I'm not mentioning... I'm going to piss off a whole bunch of people because I'm not mentioning it. Bruce Maccabee, I don't believe, is in there. He's going to be pissed off. And some others.
I don't even know these names, though.
Oh, these are all researchers. You know.
I'm just...
No.
I've known something's been going on. I've tried to deal with it on my own. I haven't gone out and bought books, and although I did buy those books,
Well, you read Intruders, and that was the big one.
you know, Intruders, Community, and Missing Times. But it's not been my life's obsession to find out who's who in the UFO phenomenon.
Why?
You know?
You don't need to. Right.
I've just had, I've just been compelled, though, to find out what's going on with the violence situation.
Numero uno. You got to do that. That's important.
You know,
Who Bruce Maccabee is no meaning to you.
Right.
You know. But
I'm not a UFO researcher, so.
No, of course
I'm not in
not.
the field. I'm just an abductee. You know? I'm the ones that you guys research.
This is, well, I don't want to put it in those kind of clinical terms. But
Well,
you're the one who can give us information, and at the same time, you can clear things up for yourself
right.
and give yourself a better handle on what's happening, and therefore be more control for yourself. And working for more control is, I think it's good. I think ultimately, in the long run, given people's druthers, if they had the choice of whether to know or not to know, most of them would rather know. They would rather know. Most people say, it's my body, it's my life, I'll deal with it. Why should I let them deal with it and me not know, you know? So, and I think that's a healthier stance.
But it's also a very personal issue. Now, there's been some of my friends I've talked to saying, yeah, you know, I think that there's extraterrestrials, and I'm on this search, and I'm going to go find out. There's some people I'm going to go talk to. I'm going to talk to, this guy named Pat and this guy named David, and you know, they seem to know something, you know, and let me know when you get back. Well, when I get back, I'm just going to say it's happening, but it's too personal and I can't talk to you about it.
That's fine.
But I will talk
Perfect.
to
Yeah.
2 people about it that are my close friends,
Yeah,
and because I need that.
fine.
And but other than that, they know not to spread the word. I mean,
Yeah.
this could even, I mean, if somebody, you know, other people were to hear this mass hysteria in the world could take place. I mean,
When I look at my crystal ball and I find that, well, you know, you're not far wrong. As a historian, I've studied society and all that for years. But when I look down the line and I see this becoming an accepted part of life, I don't see good
I don't
things
think
happening.
it'll ever become accepted.
Well,
part
let's
of
just
life.
say, for instance, hypothetical, or it does. What would happen, the question is, if the government, let's just say, came out and said, okay, it's happening, or whatever, What would
they'll
happen in a
never do that.
society? Probably will not, you're right.
No.
But let's just, on a hypothetical basis.
Oh,
I don't see good things.
No. This is an alien invasion.
In essence, it is.
We're being invaded.
It is not an occupation, but it is an invasion. So
This is,
Personal.
to me, this is alien invasion.
Yeah.
This is like a science fiction movie.
It is.
I'm involved in a science fiction movie.
Well-
To me, I'm walking down the street and I'm going, this is something you'd see in a movie. I said, but this is my life. And I'm thinking, my God, we're being invaded by aliens because I'm invaded. To me, this is a very personal invasion.
in a way, that's true, yeah.
and we're not really sure that they're aliens either. We don't know whether they're,
Well, they're alien to me.
Right.
well, we
that's-
don't know if they're from another dimension, or from inside the Earth, or from Mars.
I don't care where they're
that
from.
a
They're
reticulum
alien
star
to
system?
my
They
acknowledgement.
weren't born in
of human.
Cincinnati.
They weren't born
You
in,
know?
right,
Yeah.
so they'll be Trenton.
Say,
They look weird.
I see despair setting in the society. I see a government paralyzed and unable to deal with the situation.
Sure.
I see various groups popping up in the society saying, come to us, we have a direct pipeline to them, we can help you. That is happening now. That's
You're
already
right.
happening in the
That's
society. And I don't see many really good things happening.
What's the bit about my dreams about the disasters and the
That's the gloom and doom
catastrophes, the catastrophes and the gathering of the people,
Right.
and the spaceships up in the sky and the explosions and the war type syndrome?
Right.
I've had those dreams since I was a teenager.
Okay,
And I'm
I
going to be a
can't-
survivor, and basically I'm supposed to gather these people. I'm going
Right.
to know what to do, collect certain people. I've had numerous dreams like that.
The best we can gather, now I can't really tell without examining it, of course, but the best we can gather from situations that we have examined like that are that these are part of mental procedures that have nothing, that are not prophetic or prescient, that is to say, they're not foretelling the future, but they are feeding on the anxieties of the individual for specific mental examination, for reactions, exactly, emotional reactions.
But they make you feel like that you're going to be a survivor because you're going to help people and stuff. Are they planning an invasion or something?
Well, we don't know that.
Is it like, so they're finding our reaction out, and they're getting people like me and making us think that we're supposed to help people survive this, so just that we help people survive it, and actually they brainwashed us to be on their side?
Probably not. Because if that were to happen, we'd find this an awful lot, but we don't find it hardly at all. What we do find is, we find every once in a while something like that, but we also find just predictions of doom and gloom that were worth blowing
So
up
other
or
people
pollution.
have had these dreams too?
Oh, it's very common,
Yeah.
yeah. And so what we find is that these don't seem to have a prophetic quality now. The phenomenon, I think, exists for about 50 years, maybe more. If they were going to do that, they've already been through a couple of generations. They would have gone ahead and done it. I mean,
What are they waiting for?
right, there doesn't seem to be any plans afoot. When
So
we-
it's not going to be like, there's not like the black hat aliens, and then there's the white hat aliens, and it's the black hats
It
that
does
are
not seem to
incubating
be that
us.
way, right.
And then the white hats are going to come down, the black and white hats are going to fight each other in the sky.
We don't seem to have evidence for that. It's the best I can say. We don't have any evidence for
Well,
that.
good.
We don't
I'm
see
just
that.
hoping it is a mental procedure then, and they're just checking my reactions and
See,
different.
that we have tons of evidence for, and we have no evidence for the other
Well,
things.
good. I've had the testing dreams, and I've gone through all that.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know that this was all involved.
Yeah, oh, sure.
See,
Definitely.
I mean, there's a whole bunch then I've been through.
See, my feeling is that the majority of people who have really unusual experiences of a mystical or spiritual or even strange nature, I'm not just thinking thoughts, but I'm thinking of experiences and weird things happening that, as a rationalist, I think there's got to be a reason for this. Let's find the reason. I'm not big into the mysterious supernatural world, I must
Right.
say.
There's got to be a reason behind these
Yeah, and
events.
generally speaking, I have found reasons. It's not just, the reasons I find out pretty strange, obviously. But it's a logical reason, and it all fits together into a way in which you can understand it, and everything makes sense. So, the people, as you know, who come to me I'm selective, and so there are people who who might have had experiences that I just don't think are related to UFOs, and then I don't wind up researching it because I just don't have the time to go into other areas, and it's not in my area of expertise. And I certainly don't know much about reincarnation and stuff like that. I'm a member of an organization called the Society for Scientific Exploration, pardon me, which is a scientific society. And this is a semi-high-powered group. There's Nobel laureates, and Carl Sagan's boss is in it. You know, he's chairman of the astronomy department at Cornell. Van Terzian.
Who's that?
Van Terzian is his name.
Oh.
He's chairman of the astronomy department. And Peter Sturrock, of course, from Stanford, is the president of it. And you have to have a PhD. You have to have an academic affiliation. You have to have publications. And then you have to be nominated by a member. And it goes before a nominating committee, and then ultimately to the full council to be voted on. And they turn down all sorts of people routinely. They turn down Bud Hopkins, unfortunately. And then you're in. The only reason I'm a member of it is because I was one of the founding members. Otherwise, I probably would never even get in. But they explore strange things. And the reason it's sort of low-key is because they don't want any publicity, they don't want any press or anything like that.
They don't want to get burned.
Right, and the world's leading expert on reincarnation is there, for instance. Ian Stevenson, who's a professor of psychology, I guess, at the University of Virginia. And for reincarnation, he says that by the time you're an adult, there's so many influences on your life that you're too polluted. So he deals only with children. And he's turned up some very interesting things, I must say. And then Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ, I don't know if you know them.
Did you write about it?
Oh, yeah.
Can we find out about it?
Yeah, there was an article in Omni magazine about him a couple of months ago, and he has publications out. And then there's Hal Puthoff, who has done stuff with remote viewing. That is to say, you get a subject and an examiner. You have the subject.
I do remote viewing.
The examiner takes an envelope, he takes an envelope at random, the envelope is sealed, nobody knows what's in the envelope, who's in the room. Either the examiner, or the person who's running the experiment, or the subject. And then he goes out in his car, and he goes out 5 miles or so, and then he opens the envelope. And the envelope says, go to so-and-so park, be there, 12 o'clock. That's the first he's known about, nobody knows where he is. And he goes to the park, and then they have the subject say, where is he? And then the subject draws a picture of where he is, with some extraordinary results. Now, at the same time, there are a lot of things that have not panned out so well. Astrology has not stood the test.
Not too good.
Except for one major monumental study that was done in France in 1955, and it's been duplicated 3 times now, each with the same results, about sports champions and when they were born and the relation of Mars to Earth when they were born. And there's a positive correlation of closeness to Mars, and that's been a study that's been very controversial, and people have been reduplicating it, and there's been an argument.
So what about my Mars being in Libra? I was just joking.
But astrological stuff in a popular level has not stood the test of analysis. Now, and I'm saying this on things that have stood the test of analysis. I have friend Bob John Done here at Princeton University. He's a dean of the College of Engineering at Princeton. He has people, he sets people in front of him a giant pinball machine. It's a huge thing that has spikes in it and then slots on the bottom of it, and he drops balls through it and they hit the slots. And in a random fall,
That's like a Chinese one, right?
yeah, like a pachinko machine,
Yeah,
what we
right.
call it. In a random cascade, you're going to get a bell-shaped curve. Most of them are going to fall in the middle, less on the sides, and a few on the edges. And that's the way it is. And then he gets somebody there, and he says, I want you, by the force of your mind, to push the bell-shaped curve off to the side. With amazing results.
Is that right?
He's the dean of the College of Engineering at Princeton, Bob John, steel trap mind. Amazing, absolutely astounding stuff. Now, the one past life regression that I ever did was right at the very beginning, and this woman just sort of slipped into it, and in the first 5 minutes of what she said, I knew that this was internally generated and not a past life. Because she started talking about something that I knew about. We began to talk about Puritanism in Old New England, and I'm a historian, an American historian. And when she began to talk, she was a minister or something like that who was having troubles with the church, and as she talked, there was no doubt in my mind this was internally generated, because she was describing a situation that simply would not happen in a million years in Puritan New England. It just would not happen. It's just out of the question, out of the question. But she didn't know that. But I knew enough about Puritanism to know what went on, and there was no doubt that this was internally generated.
I told you I'm clairvoyant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm real clairvoyant. I do all sorts of things, but I was wondering, I just get more clairvoyant as it goes. Is this involved with the UFO?
Well, we don't know that. The question is...
Or am I clairvoyant and that's why they chose me? Or
that's probably not true, because there's such a huge number of people
or
who
am
are
I getting
not
more clairvoyant because of this? Or is there any correlation, or we just don't know?
The answer is, we don't know what the correlation is between people who've had abduction experiences and who consider themselves to be psychically oriented, and people in general in the society who have not had abduction experiences who are also psychic. Right. We don't know the correlation there, and we've been debating that a little bit. My best guess is that it's no more than in the general society, because in the 40 people who I've dealt with, maybe 3 or 4 of them have said that they've had psychic experiences or psychic abilities.
I do that remote
vast majority
viewing,
don't.
and I've moved things with my hands, and I do it with the
Well, telekinesis is the ability to move inanimate objects.
Right, and what's the bit with when you hold an object?
Psychometry.
Psychometry, but I could read people's minds. I mean, I can see auras, I can just touch them and know. It comes in all different forms. It just...
She sees disease in the aura.
Well, the question is, would you have these abilities regardless of the abduction
Right,
experience?
that's what I'm wondering.
And we don't know.
We don't know.
We just don't know that. We don't know whether it's a function of whether that's what they're looking for, because the vast majority of people who have had abduction experiences do not have psychic abilities.
Huh.
That we know for sure. So we don't think that that's one specifically targeted thing, And we're not even sure whether they're concerned with it at all. And we don't know. Well, we just don't know. Obviously, we don't. It's all questions, no answers. All questions. So anyway, how'd you sleep Monday night?
Like shit. I got zapped again.
What happened?
Oh, Saturday night I told you I got zapped 4 times. Right.
Well,
that noise that I hear.
yeah.
I'm just gonna. When I say the word zap, just that's the noise that comes in and
It's the
zaps.
noise
Oh,
from
okay.
her mind's eye.
Right, because usually that word means to me
Laser gun.
abducted.
Oh, no, it's not.
Well, okay. When I say the word zapped or hit, that means that they zapped me in my mind.
That
Right.
noise came out.
They zapped me 4 times Saturday night, and they zapped me twice Monday night, and I got zapped last night once.
Heard buzzing sound, well, let's just say 4 times on
Saturday.
Monday night.
No, that was Saturday night. I
Right,
had
4 times, but on Monday night you heard
twice,
Monday,
it 2 times, and on Tuesday night
once.
once. What'd you dream last night? Do you remember? What about Monday night? Remember any dreams from night before last? How'd you feel when you woke up this morning?
I felt like shit this morning.
Really?
I mean, I feel like shit now.
Um,
I drank 3 glasses. I drank 3 glasses of wine last night.
He decided to
Well, that's not
celebrate.
that much.
No, I know, but I mean,
Celebrate.
I'm just, I have not, this is just wearing on me, and but now I don't have any,
But you heard that buzzing sound last night.
yeah.
Was it when you were just going to sleep, or?
No, I laid down, and about a couple minutes after I laid down, it came in.
And what happened immediately afterward? Did you go to sleep, or lay there thinking about it?
I laid there and I got zapped again. And then I got up and I went to the bathroom, and then I laid back down, and I woke up this morning.
Did you notice the time? You have a clock by your bed window?
It was about 1:15.
What time did you hit the sack?
I hit the sack about
1:10 or something? Okay.
Yeah, so,
So it's not like you got up and go to the bathroom, you came back to the bed and realized, oh my God, it's 4:15.
right.
Okay.
We had just gone to bed. In fact, last night I slept in their house because I was just too scared to go sleep out.
You were sleeping in the van before?
Yeah, I've been sleeping in my van in the parking lot.
Okay,
And I just decided last night I just didn't want to do that.
sounds
Just
good.
wanted to come in from the weather.
You know.
Well,
I wanted
yeah,
to come in for me. It could rain outside the house or outside the van, but
Sure.
I felt very
Felt
vulnerable in
safer.
the van, even though I'm telling in fact, the night that I got zapped twice,
Which was Monday night?
Monday night, I felt, it was weird because I was laying there, getting ready to go to sleep, and I got hit, zapped.
Right. Heard the sound.
And then I felt, I felt a pressing up against the blankets and the sheets on my bed. And I went see, I had so much anger in me yet. Because, and I got up, well, first I was going, oh shit. And I go, no, confront this. Confront it. And I went like this. And I was going to yell at him, or I was aggressive.
Right.
But there was nothing there. But I felt like there was a pressure on my blankets. But there was not anything visually there for me to see.
Nothing visual.
And then I go, Colette, you're just paranoid. And then I lay down again,
Yeah.
and a few minutes later I got zapped again.
Okay. Did you get a sense of a presence then, or not?
I was trying to block it. A lot of times when these things happen, I just try not to acknowledge it. Just, it happened, okay, it happened, and go on.
That's a good attitude. That's not a bad attitude.
Because otherwise, if I go, oh my God, it happened, and oh gee, I could be freaked out for a long time, and I'm trying not
Right.
to be freaked
It's
out.
unproductive,
Right.
and there's no reason for it because it doesn't do any good one way or the other. So you might as well not be freaked out.
So I'm trying to train myself to just say, okay, it just happened, and go on.
Yeah.
So I guess I just block it out or something. Or I'm trying not to react to it. But that night I did react, and because I was mad, I was going to say, "You guys quit fucking with me." I'm angry about this.
That's good. You should do that.
But then again, I lay back down and go, "Man, Colette, you're crazy. You just think you got zapped, and then you sit up and you're ready to yell at some alien." I mean,
Nothing.
that to me seems a little weird.
It's not what's so weird about it. It's appropriate behavior.
Yeah, it's privilege.
Um,
It's good that you're that way.
The thing is, though, that with this zapping, what you have to establish first is that this buzzing sound or noise that you're hearing is, in fact, directly related to an abduction event. It might be related to a whole constellation of things that happen to people who have had abduction events.
Although, the thing that was odd was Friday night, there was the dance festival. Remember I told you about that, I had that kicking and that moving,
Right,
and
yeah,
I could see
yeah.
Your stomach.
for a week and a half ago, my God, I think there's my intuitive or whatever, the inside of me was telling me, my God, they experimenting on me, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and I'm thinking all these weird thoughts, but there was something there. I don't know what I'm going to go to a colon doctor and describe my symptoms and see. I'm not going to tell him I think something's going on. I'm going to just see what he says.
That would be interesting, yeah.
Because, I've done 31 years of living. I've never had a spastic colon in it, and I can't even imagine a colon with such force that it's going to be moving. I know what it feels like to have a.
Sure.
I know what it feels like to have a. Anyway, I had that. I worked late on the Friday night dance festival. It was May 19th. It was on a Friday, May 19th, so I know the date. I went home and I had the zap. I got the zap. Well, that weekend I was bleeding and spotting,
Okay.
and I had cramps. And I should not have been at all. I was basically in between my cycle. And so for 4 days I had bleeding and not pure red blood, but blood mixed with discharge and the unusualness of it, and so that weekend went by, and then I think it was the beginning of that week I had a dream that I had gone through a touch examination.
Right.
But it was just a really short dream, and I didn't think much of it. But I remember them saying something about my copper level being high or something. I don't know why, but that was just impressed in my mind. And I thought, well, that was just a weird dream to have. But what was odd about this is the week following is when I had the visitation, when I was more conscious, and it was basically, when I think back, it was the same examination of just touching, because I said, Colette, that must have just been a dream because they were just touching you. But the week following, which was last Monday,
Right.
is when I had the more conscious visitation, when they were examining me and it was touching.
You mean when the lampshade was?
Right, so it kind of is really a lot like that dream I had the week before, following the zapping and the weekend of bleeding and all that. And see, and then that thing is gone.
Yeah. Oh, so the thing was left,
So the baby
was removed just recently?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
So I'm going to go to a, because now if you look at the whole total picture, because I went through a lot this month.
So in other words, it was about a week in between.
And then I was 4 days late on my period, and I haven't been late.
Right.
So if you look at that, okay, I had this, whatever,
Right.
you know, and I've been getting zapped a lot lately, so I had this whatever going on, and I'm going, God, I've got a giant round one. It was something in
Right.
there. And then, okay, I get my zapping, and then I'm bleeding, right, for the next couple of days. And then I have the,
And you were probably at ovulation at that time, so
Right.
it shouldn't have been.
no.
It shouldn't have been.
And so then I have that little dream that I'm being physically examined just by hands. And then I have the following week another visitation where I'm actually more conscious and I know that I'm having it. And it kind of correlates back to the last week with the same type of examination of being, you know, and the whole touch thing.
Yeah, it seems to all work together in a way.
It does, you know, and I had that intuitive thought about the before I went through this regression and found out that I even had a.
Yeah.
She told me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, subconsciously, do we know these things? I guess we do, because we're going through regression, we find these things out. So when this thing is going on, and I'm even in the bathtub, and I'm laying there and I'm watching this thing roll and move, and I'm going, it's not a worm,
Right.
you know, and I'm pressing and I'm trying to feel a form in there.
Can you?
Well, it was different, but I don't know that much about my body.
Yeah.
And it wasn't big. I would say it was only about that big. It couldn't have been no
Couple
more
inches
bigger
long.
than that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm thinking, my God, they're trying to, they're running an experiment on me. And I'm thinking, oh, this is bizarre, Colette. You're freaking.
Right.
You know, but I'm thinking, no, because they want me. I don't know. I just know what I went through, and that's all I can say.
It is, anything is possible in this bizarre game.
It would.
I don't know why they would do this, I don't know. but-
Right there. It was just right there. It
But
was
what
not
you're describing is an area that is essentially over your right ovary.
right. But if it was in my tubes, I would have been hurting,
Oh, you'd know it.
and I wasn't
You
hurting.
would know it. Oh, yeah.
Right. It was, you know.
No, there'd be extreme pain.
Right.
You would not be able to
And
sit
I
there
wasn't
with
hurting. But see, the funny thing about it was a week before, when I was in Montana, I was driving from Montana to Las Vegas, and I spent the night in Blackfoot, Idaho at a motel.
Mhm.
But I felt real safe there because I was thinking, you guys aren't going to get me tonight because I'm in a motel, you
Mhm.
know. But I woke up and I had cramps. And I'm thinking, this is weird because I was doubling up. I was having the cramps.
When was this?
This was probably May 1st.
Oh, just this last May 1st.
Yeah. I mean, this is all real recent. I'm
Yeah.
just, you know, that's why at this
You've
period
been having an awful lot of activity just in the last couple of months.
Oh, I know. I mean, but it's all
Wouldn't
year
it?
I've been having an extreme amount. An extreme amount.
Yeah,
And I mean, that's why probably 2 months ago I was ready to blow my head off.
right.
I mean, because
No, you don't want to blow your head off.
No,
You wanna
I know
blow
that.
Their head off.
But that's why I'm starting going to a psychologist. That's why I was at Lori's house going, God, you know, something's going on.
Right.
And I need help. Something's going on.
Lori is the woman who told you to call Pat?
No, Lori's just a girlfriend of mine.
Oh, okay.
He is a psychologist I finally found that told me to call Pat.
Mhm. Do you still see her?
I've only seen her once, and I called her to let her know that I was gone on a 3-week trip, and then I
Yeah.
got back. I said, hey, I'm going out of town again to do this, and I'd like to get together with you when I get back. And she said that this, you know, she felt very positive about this experience for me, that I would probably be finding some answers and stuff, and to definitely call her. She didn't have time
Good
to
for
see
her.
me before I left, so she wanted to see me
Good.
when I get back.
I've had referrals from a psychologist and a psychiatrist before. It's very rare. Very rare.
See, I went looking for a psychologist, not to say, I can't pay the mortgage on my home. Oh my God, I'm having a bad relationship with my child. No, I went because I was depressed, stressed, and paranoid, and the two main subjects were, I'm clairvoyant, and I think there's extraterrestrials out there.
Right.
I did not go saying, like I said, I'm depressed because I don't have a boyfriend, or I'm depressed because I can't pay my mortgage. No, I'm depressed because I think I'm crazy.
Right. Yeah, well, that's the reason why people go. They can't, you know, have problems that just overwhelm them and just can't deal with it. And they figure two
And I
days are better
can't,
than
you know,
one.
and my friends think I'm just probably depressed because, well, I'm a single mom, and I have to raise Colton, and I go to school, and, you know.
Well, those are reasons enough to be pressured and
Yeah,
stressed.
but you add this
Well,
on
this is a
that,
different situation.
then
because
I'm pretty freaked out most of the time. Although
Well,
people think
you're
I'm stable.
talking about, yes, there are these events that have been happening recently, maybe even for the whole year, but ultimately, Colette, what you're talking about is to build up pressures over a longer period of time. And we did this episode on Monday, it was 10 years ago, and we talked about things that happened as a child. And these things tend to build up. I mean, there is something to the idea of catharsis. There is something to the idea of releasing that pressure. And we found, I wrote my master's thesis on Freud, and I came to believe that Freud was 95% bullshit and 5% bullshit. But there is certainly something that is important for releasing repressed memories, and that is in fact the basis of everything I do these days. And what happens with this is that people's generalized anxiety disorder, which is very common, tends to dissipate very quickly with this. And you might become anxious about other things, but they're not so much focused internally on you, but they're focused internally on your relation to outside events, which is more appropriate, obviously, because you have more information, you know where to aim it, you know. But most people, once they start coming to me, realize very quickly that they ain't nuts. That their activity, their action over the years has been entirely appropriate. Sure, you're depressed. That's an entirely appropriate reaction. Sure, you're paranoid. You keep thinking people are after you or whatever. Well, of course.
Right, and if you were, you know, and I went to this one psychologist, right, I said, look, I want to know if I got delusions or something, you know. She goes, well, here, take this test, and we'll go through it.
Uh-huh.
And
Will she give you the NMPI?
it was a 400 it was a test that you answered questions to, and
It was probably the Minnesota Multi-Basic Personality Inventory as a cause.
probably, you know, and so anyway, and she goes, well, you're very depressed. You're way, Colette, you're in trouble. You're way